Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome to you from wherever in the world you are joining us from. Thank you for being a part of today's program, which has been designed, carefully put together to mark the International Men's Day and the Day of Elimination of Violence against Women. I would like to welcome everyone to this edition, and on behalf of our founders, Reverend Olushola and Reverend Oyenike Areogun, and all the members of the Board of Trustees, a very warm welcome to you. My name is Sheyi Oluwatuyi, and joining me today is okay. So I will be joined as part of the anchor today by one of the members of the team, Temilolu Shaibu, and she will be joining us shortly. Today's program is the second edition of the Intersection of Faith and Medicine, proudly sponsored by the Olushola and Oyenike Areogun Development Initiative, OOADI. OOADI is a Christian-based non-governmental organization and the development arm of Shola Areogun Ministry, where law is shown to the vulnerable and less privileged individuals and communities, thus empowering them to fulfill their destiny and their dreams in life. Earlier this year, OOADI hosted the first edition of the Intersection of Faith and Medicine, and the central focus there was on cancer, the much dreaded cancer. And there I could remember clearly that it was a very detailed, in-depth conversation around cancer. Where does faith come in and where does medicine come in? I remember one of the words that our founder will always say, that authentic science does not argue with faith, and authentic faith does not relegate or deny science. And that is what we're up and about at OOADI, showing where faith comes in and showing where medicine is relevant. Awesome. This time around, we are looking at men's mental health and how that affects violence against women. And we have just been joined by our co-anchor today. Welcome, Ma, to this program. And I was talking just now about the last edition of Intersection of Faith and Medicine, that is 1.0, and it was largely about the place of medicine in dealing with cancer and the place of faith in dealing with that same dreaded ailment. And today we are talking about men's mental health, and I'm particularly passionate about it because I've had to deal with that with people that I relate with at different times. And what do you look out for today? What's your expectation?
All right. Yes, so once again, you are welcome. Today, we'll be looking at men's mental health as it borders on violence against women. I think I find it very interesting. I find it a very interesting topic because over the years, men have been considered to be strong enough to handle anything. And usually the issue of men's mental health never comes, to the table for discussion. So I really want to find out what we need to look at, what we need to consider, what we need to, pay attention to as it pertains men's mental health. I think women will also be interested in doing that.
Absolutely, and we are going right into it. Ma, so you can go ahead. I know we are already running behind time. Thank you.
The core of this program will be having two keynote speakers that are professionals with us today. And we're also going to have 8 panelists. Wow, what an array. But before we go into the discourse proper, I would like to introduce to us and to welcome the CEO of this great organization. You may want to know that she received a bachelor's degree in English and a master's degree in international management with human resource management from reputable institutions. She has also had working experience in the academia as well as in other sectors. She has end-to-end HR experience from various sectors and manages the HR operations of the initiative. She's an avid reader, education enthusiast, entrepreneur, and speaker. She's an advocate for the girl child, as well as for promoting a reading culture among young people. Without further ado, with much pleasure, I would like to join us. I would like to invite the CEO of this organization, Ms. Peace Areogun, for the welcome address. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to specially welcome everyone to this second edition of the Intersection of Faith and Medicine Symposium. We had the first edition, as our anchors have already told us, back in February. And it was around the subject of and this second edition has been tagged the intersection of men's mental health and violence against women in honor of the International Men's Day, which was November 19th, and International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women, which was November 25th. And as we've just been told, today we're going to be having an array of events. We're going to be going through an array of events ranging from the keynote presentations, which you do not want to miss out. They're going to be very, very insightful and impactful. And we're also going to be having very interesting panel discussions, which you also do not want to miss out on. We would also be having breakout sessions where members of the Olushola and Oyenike Arogun Development Initiative team would be going more in-depthly, going into details, you know, what we do as a foundation. We're going to, I'm sure the anchors have spoken briefly about it. You're still going to hear, you know, just bits and bobs here and there about what we do as a foundation. But you would definitely want to join at least one of the breakout sessions to know exactly what we have to offer as a foundation. So I want to charge you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. And if you have any questions, because there would be room for you to ask questions and have your questions answered, questions surrounding the theme for the day. All right, so if you have any questions, I assure you that everybody that's going to be speaking to us, our keynote speakers, our panelists, they're top, you know, they're top people in their fields, very well respected in their various respective fields. So that's tell us that they're very qualified to answer whatever questions you would be having regarding any of the topics, regarding the theme, any questions you have regarding the theme, be it men's mental health or violence against women. All right, so you can drop the questions into the chat box, but I also think that there is a link that was created by yes, it's been put in the chat box. So there's a link for you to just click on and drop your questions. The team has put that link into the chat box. So send in your questions and they would be answered. And there is still time for you to invite someone to join us. Okay, so you can do that by sharing the Zoom number that you're currently on. And you can also forward them straight to our YouTube page. We do have a YouTube channel, so you can forward them to the YouTube channel. The link for the YouTube channel will also be placed in the chat box. And I also want to encourage you to follow us on all our social media platforms, right? So that you're kept up to date with all our activities. As a foundation, we're going into the end of the year, December period and whatnot. So we have a lot of activities at this time, and you would definitely want to know what we're doing. So once again, I welcome everyone. All right. And again, relax. That's all you have to do. Okay. You're not a panel member, you're not a keynote speaker. So your job here is to just relax, listen, and enjoy. And I'd like to call on our most amazing MCs to take us on. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for that warm welcome by our Chief Executive Officer at OOADI. Thank you, Ms. Peace Areogun, for that warm welcome and setting the scene for a wonderful moment that we'll be sharing together. As mentioned earlier, we have two keynote speakers who are top professionals in their own space and in their field, and they will be presenting on different topics today.
Yeah. At some point in the course of this program, we'll also be having a breakout session. And during the course of this breakout session, everyone will be able to get to meet OADI team members, okay, in different Zoom rooms where you have the opportunity to learn more about what we do, okay, in the different sectors of the OADI. You also have the privilege of asking questions and determine where exactly you want to support the initiative, okay? So thereafter, we will have the crux of the program, which will be the panel discussion, where very practical issues on these topics will be discussed. Once again, remember to send in your questions, okay, to bit.ly/faithmedqa. That will be scrolling on the screen. So ensure you send in your questions, and our experts will be kind enough, okay, to get answers to each and every one of them.
Good. Thank you very much, ma'am. Well, just in case you are joining on YouTube and it's not scrolling on the screen, right in the chat section of that your YouTube page, just under your YouTube page, or your YouTube screen, you will find the link that has just been mentioned by our co-anchor for today. Please keep the questions coming in. And having done justice to laying out what today's program is going to look like, is just the time for us to hear directly from the mouth of the administrative manager of this foundation, Ms. Tumise Ajayi. She will be giving an overview of what we do at OOADI. Please make welcome Ms. Tumise Ajayi as she takes the floor. Thank you. Okay, I am sure Ms. Tumise Ajayi is getting ready. Good, thank you.
As a Christian non-governmental organization, we are involved in 3 academic projects. The first one is Operation Give Life a Destiny. The second one is OOADI Undergraduate Scholarship Program. And the third one is Destiny Strides Writing Competition. Moving on to the first one, which is the Operation Give Life a Destiny. Operation Give Life to a Destiny is a scholarship platform which enables children of missionaries have access to an international and world-class education. The second academic project highlight of OOADI is what we call the OOADI Undergraduate Scholarship Program. Earlier before now, it used to be called the Reverend Olushola Adeogun Scholarship Foundation. This is a scholarship platform available to help Christian indigent undergraduates to fulfill their dream for tertiary level education who are also a member of Dream Center Church. The scholarship platform has commenced its operations in 2012. And the third academic project highlight of this great organization is what we call the Destiny Strides Writing Competition. This is just for celebrating the creativity of Christian teenagers. This program commenced its operation from Destiny International College and has been made available to every other Christian teenagers across the country. So the Air Force has amassed for support into one or all of these academic projects that I've highlighted for us today. Kindly check in your chat box to see the link to the support form and our email address. We'd like to hear from you and your feedbacks from you. Thank you, Sazamas. Over to you, Sazamas.
Thank you, Ms. Tumishi Ajayi, for keeping it straight to the point. And just to our uncle, I was greatly impressed by the effort of OOADI as far as empowering people in the field of academics is concerned, knowing well that nobody can reach the height of their capacity and potential if their minds are not properly educated. And OOADI is showing the way in which non-governmental organizations can support whatsoever is obtainable in the country where people are to truly get people educated and their mind equipped to really give expression to their capability. How does that go for you?
Yeah, listening to what the OADI is doing in terms of education is highly impressive because, a lot of people cannot determine where they start in life, but you definitely have a choice where you are headed. Okay, some people, it looks like they are born with a disadvantage, probably because they're not in the developed world, or probably because they are born to parents that are not too well to do. But that should not stop you from becoming all that God plans for you to be. So I see the OADI teaming up with God, with this kind of opportunity to offer a rare privilege, to those who might appear to be at a disadvantage, to give them a lead, in life. I consider this very commendable, and I think it's something that everyone that is listening to us should want to be a part of. Well done, OADI. That's a beautiful.
I can't agree more. And just in case you are connected this day, maybe morning, afternoon, or night, depending on which time zone you are on the surface of the earth, I would like you to really put your mouth, as they say, where your money is, right? If you are truly passionate about giving life to a destiny, helping someone who appears disadvantaged to find that space to get educated and indeed make the world a better place by people rising to the height of their capabilities, then you have a space to give expression to that. You can put your fund into it. Yes, your suggestions are welcome. Your funds are also welcome. You will truly be glad you did. A destiny will say thank you for doing so. So I'm sure right in the YouTube where you are connecting from, there will be a form where you can really indicate your readiness to be a partner or a funder within this space. And I'm sure one of our members from within the team will reach out to you on how to take that forward. Yes, we are taking it further now in this session of Faith and Medicine. And this is the session you've been waiting for.
Yes, sir, it definitely is. And we're going straight into the first keynote presentation. Okay, and we're going to be having with us today, it's such a privilege, I must tell you, to have with us Dr. Shogo Adediran. He's a graduate of Lado Capitola University Medical School, Nigeria, where he received a Bachelor of Medicine. Okay, that's an MBBS degree in medicine. And then he went on to have a Master of Science degree in Public Health from the University of East London, United Kingdom. He started his career in psychiatry in the United Kingdom as a junior staff grade doctor with East London Foundation, NHS Trust. He then went on to complete his core training in psychiatry under Health Education, England, Northwest London Training Scheme, Charing Cross Rotation Scheme. He was approved in June 2018 under Section 12.2 of the Mental Health Act 1983 as having special expertise in the diagnosis and treatment of mental disorders. He's also an associate member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists and has been employed full-time as a specialty doctor in psychiatry by East London NHS Foundation Trust. Over the years, He has gained extensive experience in both inpatient and community-based care in the diagnosis and treatment of mental illness. It is with great pleasure today that we invite Dr. Shogo Adediro for the first keynote presentation. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Temilolu Shaibu. And I want to say kudos to all the members of the OADI initiative, the Olushola Oyenika Areogun Development Initiative. And I want to say thank you to the founders of this initiative in the person of Reverend Olushola Oyenika Areogun, and also thank you to our CEO, Ms. Peace Areogun, and every member of this team. I believe that this is a great topic, especially it's just right in time that we are having this discussion. And I'm sure that in the next few minutes, you will have an exposition about the men's mental health. All right. So we're talking today about the men's mental health and the man-up attitude. And I want you to think about that, the man-up attitude. So I'll be talking strictly on just introducing it to you, what is it that we know, and why is it that men don't talk about their mental health, and what's the way forward. So what is International Men's Day? Okay, this is the global initiative celebrated annually everywhere in the world on the 19th of November every year, and the purpose is to raise awareness to men's mental health and physical health, and to promote positive masculinity and support ethical male role models. In the UK here, where I practice, and I practice in the area of East London, where that happens the most diverse area in the United Kingdom. London being most diverse, East London most diverse, where I also practice also now most diverse. Okay, so I think I've seen a little of it when it has to do with men's mental health. So the UK remains the most, in the UK, suicide still remains the most common cause of death in men between the age of 20 and 49. Some of us that you are logged on today, I know in the medical school is always between 40 and 49, but things have changed recently. So men in their late 40s, they have the highest rate, and that increased during the pandemic, and especially among the under 25s. And men are 3 times likely to die by suicide than women. And some studies say ratio of maybe 75 to 25 and all that. So in this age of oversharing on social media, like we are now, we're on social media, people listen more on social media. It has never been more accepted to tell your peers how you feel, even though some people you use negative way and positive way. Even with this, men are still struggling. And, ill health and misfortune, they do not discriminate by gender. And the International Men's Day encourages men to spend one day of the year addressing these issues and promoting positive attitude. And that's exactly why I believe that this OADI initiative is doing something great. Many of us, November 19, maybe we're not even aware of this, but thanks to the OADI initiative for us to listen to this. So what do the numbers say? Okay, what do the numbers say in terms of what are the statistics? In England, for example, 1 in 8 people, they have a common mental health problem. In medicine, mostly when people hear about mental health, what they used to think about is more of psychosis. And this is just a part of mental health. There is also what we call the neurosis, and that's why we have things like the depression, manic disorder, and all that. When you talk about psychosis, most of the time it doesn't actually kill people. It's the physical health associated with it, as opposed to this depression and all that has actually caused death. And that's why we need to look more into this. So in America, for example, the data shows that about 6 million men are affected by depression in the US, every single year. And about 1 in 10 men will develop major depression at some point. There are different levels of depression, mild, moderate, severe. We know about 1 in 10 will develop major one at some point in their life. But the problem is that men are reluctant to convey their feelings and to seek help when they are in such despair. And most recently in Africa, I'm sure you bear witness to this, there has been an increased rate of deaths following suicide. And this is now well known. And untreated mental health conditions can actually lead to high-risk behavior like substance misuse, gambling, and other forms of addiction. And I'm sure that the next person with the keynote address will be talking to us about violence against women. And this can actually contribute to that. So men are likely about 3 times than women to become more alcoholic. Sometimes these things pass, even one generation to another. Most of the time when you see someone with alcohol problem, at least where I work, you see their father, their grandfather with the same problem also. And men are likely to be victims of violent crime. And this is well documented in various places. So the problem is men report lower level of satisfaction than women, according to the Government National Wellbeing Survey that's in the UK. And the talking therapy service that we have, everywhere in the world, there is what they call the improved access, to psychological therapy. So what is been documented there that only 36% of the referrals are the ones that are actually from men. And according to the National Institute of Mental Health, men are less likely to receive mental health treatment than women. And an estimated about 72% of men will not seek help for their mental disorder. You can imagine, of 72%. That's even the best of places. And okay, so why don't men talk about their mental health? Why do you think that men don't talk about mental health? The first thing I want to point out is stigma. I mean, we all know this. Social norms, cultural beliefs. Social norms is just the way that, people feel that, people should behave in a particular society or environment. And cultural beliefs, self-perception, and their social expectation and traditional gender role that men should traditionally play. And this is everywhere in the world. So there is this traditional ideologies who make men think they're emotionally intelligent, self-reliant, they're competent. And this, so they exhibit denial when a mental issue arises. So they don't even know when to seek help. And when it is that they have caused it to the line that this way is actually affecting their mental health. And men are also likely to use, potentially harmful coping methods. And that's why most people, they may not quickly know because they feel that they are using a method, to actually combat these things like drugs. And eventually this also, again, like as I said before, can also be linked to violence against women at the end of the day. So how can we improve mental health in men? The first thing is enhancing education. There's a study in Canada, among the family physicians that they have actually recorded the fact that, breaking that chain of stigma that says that men should not talk about their mental health problem actually reduces suicide and also, depression and suicide. And the other thing is awareness, awareness anywhere in the world, whether the UK, US, Africa, and all that, especially like what we are doing today, is so important. And sometimes it's not just what you do just once, just the mental health day, because we know that this is becoming more problematic and many people need to know about this. And the other thing is talking about the talking therapy. Actually, the talking therapy, or what it does most of the time, is about it deals with the way you think, the way you feel, the way you behave, and that is what they try to deal with. But this is the area of the soul most of the time, and that's why as a Christian professional, I would just be saying, as I'm going to wrap up, my own view, especially when it comes to men's mental health and how it has affected them. Seeking psychiatric help and advice, this is very important, and it does help. Psychiatry is not about medication like what most people believe. When people come to see me in clinic, many times I tell them I'm not a psychiatrist just because I can prescribe medication for you. That's not what makes me a psychiatrist. There are many other ways by which you can be helped, many other things I can signpost to. I will be able to diagnose, what exactly you are going through, and for you to seek the necessary help. And pastoral care and counseling, I think this is very important. There's a part in the United Kingdom, for example, that we call the transcultural psychiatry, that people have seen, and is well documented now, that actually when you involve the pastoral care, people have done well. And as I round up, I've written something down to my perspective as a Christian professional. I've found most psychiatrists and that I've worked with and interacted with, they are not Christians, I must confess. However, okay, a professional will not be disturbed, okay, by your Christian beliefs, and if you want to express them. So as you would for, you employ God and science for physical health problem, okay, you should also take advantage of a Christian faith and science in dealing with your mental health. And you see, in the book of Psalm, the psalmist says, "Why hast thou cast down, O my soul? When I pass through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." And other books of the Bible, you see Lamentation, Jeremiah, there are times that strong men have faced situations that required help, and they called on God and he delivered them. So many men have committed suicide as they were passing through their own shadow of death. They were overcome by overwhelming situation that they faced. And this is important that we know this. So this is important. That's why I feel that this initiative is doing so well for people to know more, especially with regards to mental health. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow, what a loaded session we've had there. Thank you very much, Dr. Shogo Adediran. Really proud to have had your time shared with us today. And I'm sure that questions will continue to come. I have learned a lot today. Mrs. Joseph Shaibu, for me, for the first time, I had the word positive masculinity. I had the word for the first time, harmful coping mechanism. Coping mechanism. So those words, they stood out for me as Dr. Shogwadediron was taking us during that session. And I want to say thank you again. What stuck out for you, Mrs. Joseph Shaibu?
Well, I think that when you mentioned the fact that mental disorders are the base of a lot of, substance abuse, and let me just say all sorts of vagabondry that we are seeing that is on the rise nowadays. So I think that we have probably been dealing with these things with wrong methods. Maybe we should actually be looking more at the mental state of people, to resolve some of the social problems that we have in our environment nowadays. And, I don't think I mentioned that Dr. Shogwadejiro is also a pastor. I think he has actually delved for us into the link between spirituality, where science stops and God continues and all of that. But I'm sure that we still have a lot packed on that today. Yes. But you did a good job of opening our heart to that aspect. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Thank you once more. And thank you to our audience back at home who have stayed closely connected to this program today. You will do even better to tell someone about this. You might be saving a life. You might be answering somebody's question by just telling them that this program that carries such magnitude of importance and depth is ongoing. So it's not too late to send the link to someone. And I must mention that for me personally, I'd always thought maybe female mood swing is all it is, that there is about mental health. But today I could see that men also deal with mental issues, right? And of course, it's humbling. It's humbling.
That's true.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, as a sequel to what Ms. Ajayi, the administrative manager of OOADI, took us through earlier, we will be having the project manager of OOADI speak to us briefly now. She'll be sharing with us some of the amazing work that OOADI is doing in the area of women empowerment. If you are just joining, OOADI is Olushola and Oyenike Areogun Development Initiative. So that's what that acronym stands for. Okay, so let's welcome Ms. Akikube as she leads us further. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm really grateful. All right, so I will be presenting on what we do at OOADI in terms of women empowerment. And just like you've heard about who we are at OOADI, I won't dwell much on this part. So just like you know that in every organization, in every development, in every country, women empowerment is really, really important because we know how much a woman contributes to the development of every country. So this is a really important thing that we do at OOADI. And then we do this in 3 components. The first one I'll be speaking about is the Tabitha Project, which we do a secondary school advocacy program, which is going to, schools to teach young people, young girls about what it means to be a young girl, and also to teach them against sexual harassment, which is like mostly seen around the world now, and also to teach them about hygiene, teach them a lot of things. And then the other one is the medical camp. I'm talking to us about what we have on the Tabitha Project. Okay, let me just go there now. So, all right, so under the Tabitha Project, as you can see from the pictures of all our team members going to different communities in Nigeria to do a medical camp, to teach people to do medical checkup for women in these rural areas that it seems nobody cares about, and to do medical checkup, give them free medications. And the most interesting part of this Tabitha Project is just not about the medications or the free checkups we do, but we also preach the word of God to them and lead them to Christ, which I think it's a very, very important part of the project, because you'll be amazed that most of these rural communities, some of them have not even heard about the gospel before. And this is why this project is really, really an important project for you to invest and partner with. And also under the Tabitha Project, we also offer seminar counseling sessions to junior and secondary high school girls in rural settings. This is the picture of some of the schools we've gone to. And I think the best thing you can give a girl child right now in this level of development around the world is to give them an opportunity for counseling, where they can share what they go through with people, where someone they can talk to and be sure that, oh, their voices are being heard. So this is what we do, offer seminar to young girls for them to be able to share their personal experience, and also for us to like train them in a way they can report sexual harassment at every level, and also their personal hygiene as a woman, during puberty, teach them the needs and what to do. And we've been able to take it a little bit further to distribution of sanitary pads and clothes for women and girls. And I think this is really, really an amazing thing to do for a girl child. And also we have the vocational school. All the pictures in this presentation right now are something we've been able to get from the young girls that have passed through this vocational school. The cake, the hats, the designs, they are all the products of some of the young girls that we've trained in this vocational school. And this vocational school is just to, empower young girls on training skills that can make them more valuable in the community. And we all know the importance of skills. This is just giving them the skills and also giving them the money to start the business. And for OADI, the vocational school is not just empowering people with the skills and the training, but after the whole training process, which is free, we provide a support for business proposals, which we help them to develop. And then we also give them a seed grant to top 5% of the school to start their business. I mean, this is really, really wonderful. It's not about giving the skills, but also empowering them to start working with the skills. And lastly, the last part of the Women Empowerment Program is the microcredit scheme, which is supporting women and empowering them economically to be self-sufficient. We give loan to women to start business. And then, and after we give them enough time for them to make profits for this business to stand on their own before they return the fund. And this has really, really been, a way to support women. And I think I'm going to read a testimony that we have under this microcredit scheme, which is from a woman, they won't mention name, but she said she lost everything she had, including her business, at a very critical moment in her life. But then through this microcredit scheme, she has been able to have another chance, and it's been amazing. She was able to acquire machines and have new customer, and now the business is booming, and she was able to even refund the loan and generate the profits. This is an amazing thing. All right, and I think the last thing that I want to mention on this women empowerment is you see a lot of the wonderful project that we've been able to do, but it will be so amazing that the support that we've had over the years are from our founders in person of Reverend Olushola and Oyenika Areogun. And I think we should give them a round of applause. They've been able to support us all through this program, and now we want you to also partner with us. There is nothing more like investing in a girl's child, investing in women empowerment. When women are empowered, the country is stable, the community is stable, everything goes well. So we want you to join us, and you can sign up with the form we submitted to join this women empowerment. Thank you. I will hand over to the anchors now. Thank you so much.
Wow, very impressive. Dear viewers at home, you've heard it yourself. I consider it very impressive that OADI is doing all this for the female folk. Okay, particularly striking to me is the fact that we actually need to start early. Women empowerment does not start after a lady is 30 years old or 40 years old, or she has 2 children and she doesn't have a job, and then you're looking for how to help her. If we can start early and give the girl child the mindset that she can be independent, she can stand by herself, she can walk with her hands, she can walk with her mind, and she can have a strong spirit. I think that a lot of the violence that we have happening in the society against women will actually be curbed and reduced, because when you are empowered, and you're not dependent on other people, there will be a limit to how much you can be abused. So once again, kudos to OADI on the women empowerment scheme. Very good one there.
Indeed. Thank you, Mrs. Joseph Shaibu, for stating it clearly. I don't think I could have explained it as clearly as you did. I think the primary thing for me is the fact that the program for empowering women is starting very early. It's starting early. And if this is fully incorporated and even expanded, and expanding it is one of the reasons why we are here today, it means that there will be fewer liabilities going into the future, because that girl child that you empowered from secondary school on how to make a cake, on how to do decoration and the like, that female person or that child will not get to finish school, and then someone is saying, sleep with me or you don't have a job. They are empowered to do something by their hands and by their minds. And this is what OADI is doing to make the world a better place. And I believe that this is the time for you to team up with something that truly makes a difference. I remember the line of a song that I heard from Don Moe. I don't know whether it was the one that wrote it. He said, when it's all said and done, he said, only the thing I've done for love's reward will stand the test of time. And I believe this is one of the works that will stand the test of time. So keep the partnership coming in, keep filling the form, and we'll get across to you on how to take it further. And we are moving straight further now into some other sections. And Mrs. Joseph Shaibu, you have the floor. Tell us, what are we doing next?
Thank you so much, sir. So we're going straight into the second keynote presentation for the day. And now we're going to have the legal angle. Okay. For the second keynote speech for today, we're going to be looking at the law and violence against women, global practice and biblical standard. This speech will be given by our second and final keynote speaker for today, Mrs. Kemi Oluwatoyin. She holds a law degree from the University of Ilorin, Kwara State. She attended the Nigerian Law School, Lagos campus, and was called to the Nigerian bar in 2005. She is a lover of corporate practice, and you can agree with me that she must have a lot of experience to share with us. So make welcome with me, Mrs. Kemi Oluwatoyin. You're very welcome.
All right, thank you, our anchors for today. Thank you for having me here on this program this morning. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone that is watching us from all over the world, depending on where you are watching from. This morning, you're welcome on this program once again. And I would say I want to appreciate the founders of this great organization in person of Reverend Olushola and Reverend Oyenike Areogun for this great work that they are doing. I'm sure that this generation and the generation to come will not recover from this. Thank you, sir and ma, and to everyone that has put strength together to ensure that this becomes a reality. I want to say thank you. We really appreciate you. All right, the topic before us this morning is the law and violence against women, the global practice and biblical standard. All right, let's look at what we mean by violence generally. Violence is any behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone. It is a strength of emotion of a destructive nature. Is the strength of emotion of a destructive nature, and of course that is violence generally. But what do we mean by violence against women? Now I'll be bringing to us the definition that we have from the United Nations. What is violence against women? All right, according to the UN, violence against women is any act of gender-based violence that results in physical, sexual, or mental harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether occurring in public or in the private. So it doesn't matter whether the particular act is occurring in the public or in the private, where nobody is saying it. It is violence against women once it's coming within the definition that we have. Don't forget, it is any act of gender-based violence that results in physical, sexual, or mental harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether it's occurring in public or in private. All right. What is the global estimate? Well, what's the global practice? What do we have globally? Of course, I want to emphasize to us that this particular violence against women is not is something that is common all over the world. It's common all over the world, though we have the percentage being higher in some parts of the world than the other parts of the world. Of course, we have it a bit higher in Africa for various factors that we'll be seeing as we move on here today. Over a quarter of women aged 15 to 49 years who have been in a relationship have been subjected to physical or sexual violence by, in their lifetime, at least once in their lifetime, by either their intimate partners, like husband and any other intimate partner that people have, all over the world, or it can be by intimate partner or people that are not intimate partners. All right, so that is the estimate that we have globally. The estimate published by World Health Organization indicate that globally 1 in 3, that is 30% now, of women worldwide have been subjected to either physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. So that is to tell us that globally it is something that is common everywhere. It's common everywhere in one way or the other. When we first talk about violence against women, I think the common thing is for people to think that we are actually referring to sexual violence, issues of sexual issues around the world. But by the definition that I've brought to us this morning, we can see that violence against women actually, transcends sexual violence. We have other acts that you can do to a woman that constitute violence, and which we are creating an awareness that people should know and desist from such acts. And then the women across the world should have the understanding of their own rights and know how to speak up when they need to speak up. All right, what are the causes of violence against women? Exposure to violent media is one cause of violence against women. What people are exposed to on the media is a factor that can result in violence against women. An average person whose character has not been solidly formed and watching different things on the media can just be programmed to begin to behave in such a manner as well. Then we have communities and cultural beliefs. This is very common all over the world and common in Africa too, where we have barbaric cultures, traditions that are subject to women, that are subject to women to different kinds of degrading treatments and torture, all over the world. That's also a cause of violence against the women. We also have frustration, and this, of course, frustration occurs mostly when you see a man that is frustrated and is taking it on the woman. It's taking it on the woman. It's frustrated maybe because of the economic factor, because of low self-esteem. A hungry man is referred to as an angry man, So something like that can make a man become violent against the woman. And then we have state of mental health. We have drugs and alcohol use, discrimination against the female gender that we have across the globe. It's everywhere. At one point or the other, you discover that is happening. What are the forms of violence against women that we have? We have domestic violence. Remember that I talked about it earlier, that it's not only sexual violence that we are referring to, maybe rape or sexual abuse that we're referring to, where we talk about violence against women. Of course, they are very critical when we are discussing this particular subject, but the truth is that we have other acts that constitute violence against the woman, and one of the forms of violence that we have against the woman is domestic violence, and this can manifest in the form of battering, hitting and beating, deprivation of livelihood, verbal abuse, and so on. We have it all over the world happening. In fact, some women will not be able to tell you that this is happening between myself and my husband, or maybe it's happening, in the house, in the home, where they are not able to, when they are not confident to voice out that this is happening. So we have that domestic violence now. Then we have sexual abuse too, sexual violence too. We have this to include rape, sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, intimidation in the workplace and institutions. Of course, that is very common all over the world. Somebody, a female, is looking for a job and is qualified for that particular job, but is subjected to a human treatment, like you have to follow the handy somewhere, you have to meet the handy in the hotel. That is the practice, and different things like that. And victimization of every sort in the workplace and even in the institutions as we have it around. We have harmful sexual practices such as genital mutilation, forced and child marriage. And also the third one I'll be talking about, we have the emotional and psychological violence. This can include jealousy, accusation.
Wow. That's a lot to take in, and we had to stop it there. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kemi Oluwatuyi, for that depth of insight into what the legal position is on violence against women, giving us the categories that exist. And for me today, two things stood out for me during that presentation. Two things. One is the alarming figure: 30% of women have been subject to violence. 30%. That's 1/3. That's a lot. That means when you have 6 women sitting down, at least 2 of them would or could have been victims of violence. And that's very serious. And I believe that by reason of today's program, that number is going to reduce drastically. I believe that very strongly. And the second thing that stood out for me during that presentation is emotional violence, because I could connect with, okay, maybe physical activities, maybe battery and the like, but emotional violence. Mrs. Joseph Shaibu, what stood out for you? That's serious.
Yeah, I think a question just that came up in my heart as I was listening to that is, where did this culture of silence come from? You know, when we were looking at the man of attitude, the men are quiet about what they are going through. So we're not even knowing that there's so much mental torture going on. And when you come to the females, they're quiet about what they're going through too. You don't know that so much abuse, you understand, is going on. I think the more we, you know, we have this culture of awareness, education, and openness, you understand, the more we do that, the easier it will be for people to be able to find help and people to be able to open up. And, you know, that would help people a lot more. I think from, you know, parents need to work on that, that you give your children the room to be open, to speak. The society needs to help people speak out. I think it will go a long way in helping us on every side.
Indeed, indeed. And OOADI is, by reason of today's program, promoting the speak out culture. Let's talk about it. Let's expose it. And once we expose it, one of the things you find out is that people get to be aware. And when awareness increases, such negative traits, habits, behaviors, they become things that people are even ashamed to participate in. And thank you once more for the founders of this great initiative, and to our CEO for putting together this kind of program today that promotes a speak out culture as far as violence against women is concerned. And I know it's not over yet. The very interesting parts are still ahead. Mrs. Shaibu, what are you doing next?
So before we go into a breakout session, let me just mention that, you know, the whole idea as a whole, even this awareness and education schemes that we have, is something you may want to be a part of. It's costing money, you know, to be on air and to air such a program. So whatever aspects that you want to sponsor, please don't hesitate to go ahead and drop something in that link and ensure that you are a part of what is going on. All right,
yes,
so we're going into our breakout session.
Mrs. Shaibu, do remind people that questions are very important. Your questions are part of what will make this program as rich as it is supposed to be, because there are perspectives and dimensions that we will not be able to touch on if you don't ask questions on them. So please keep pouring your questions in, and I believe you will have answers that will be of help to you and to someone that is connected to the program today, or who might be listening to the recorded version of today's program. So keep them coming in.
Yeah, very true. So we'll be going into a breakout session. And like we mentioned earlier, the breakout session is to enlighten you more about what we do. You know, when they were speaking about the GLAD, Operation GLAD, and all the others earlier on, maybe, you know, something caught your attention. So we will have the opportunity to go into different Zoom rooms now, okay, where you can hear more about each of the core projects, and you can find out how to partner with the different categories. Just click on the link bit.ly/OADI sponsor, okay? Being posted in the chat. You find it right on the chat box wherever you are joined in, whether you're on YouTube or you're on the Zoom page, okay? And then you pick the project you would love to join, find out about, sponsor, or fund, okay? You can also send a mail to admin at devinitiative.org. You can join any of the following 3 rooms, or you can choose to go around all the rooms. Officers will be there, team members of the OADI will be there to attend to you. Once again, let me run us through the rooms. We have the Operation GLAD, that is Give Life a Destiny, where we're talking about scholarship scheme for children of missionaries serving in remote areas of Nigeria. You can join that to find out how you can contribute. There is also the Destiny Scribe Writing Competition, which is the essay competition for, you know, raising creativity in Christian teenagers. There is the Tabitha Project, which focuses on the empowerment program for girls and women. So in the next few minutes, the team members are already waiting for us. Please click on that link and make sure that you join on at least into one of the rooms, so that you can find out how you can be a part of this great initiative. We'll see you back here in the next few minutes.
Okay, a very warm welcome back to all of our audience from everywhere you're connecting from the breakout session. I believe you had a wonderful time knowing more about the three main arms of the Olushola and Oyenike Areogun Development Initiative. Mrs. Joseph Shaibu, what stood out for you? What was your wow moment?
Yeah. Well, like I decided to go through all the three rooms. Okay. And well, a lot of people joined the Tabitha project automatically. I think we had the most audience there, and then Operation Glad, and we had very few people in the Destiny Scribe section. But I particularly was fascinated at the topics that the OADI has, the Destiny Scribes competition has put forward. And they have actually awarded a lot of Christian teenagers different levels of awards and gifts for writing and participating in these competitions. I think that it is very good to encourage our children to be creative from such a young age. The world out there is highly competitive, and as they do researches and get involved in this competition at such a platform, it prepares them for the future. So I found that quite fascinating from my own head.
Yes, indeed. And again, so for those who may just be joining us, it is the second edition of the intersection of faith and medicine, where we are dissecting the matter of men's mental health and how that intersects with violence, with not violence against women as well, but with elimination of violence against women. And I'm sure you've been having a wonderful time connecting to this page or to this channel today. And without further ado, we will be going to our first panel conversation, where we will be having the privilege of having our panelists go into depth that we really need for today's session. A quick introduction and a brief one for that matter, of each of our panelists today. We have Dr. Deji Ogungbemi, a consultant family physician and geriatrician. You may want to run to Google for help on that. He is presently coordinating and is the coordinating consultant at the Accident and Emergency Unit of Osun State University Teaching Hospital, Osogbo. Please make welcome Dr. Deji Ogungbemi. We also have Mrs. Bukola Abe, a certified speech coach, a seasoned broadcast journalist with the largest radio network in Africa, and with over 15 years of experience anchoring award-winning programs. Please make welcome Mrs. Bukola Abe. You can see the diversity of our panelists today. Also, we have Dr. Olaniyi James Bamikole, a consultant physician and cardiologist in the Department of Medicine at the Nigerian Navy Referral Hospital, Lagos. He is a member of several professional associations and has presented his research work both locally and internationally. And I know one of the things we would like us to know about him is that he's a specialist when it comes to dealing with heart failure. Okay, please make him welcome on this panel conversation today. And lastly, definitely not the least, for this panel conversation or for this panel segment, we have Mr. Vilbai Kintai. He holds a Master of Law degree from the University of Lagos. He is a legal officer at the Independent National Electoral Commission, and currently he is the head of litigation of Osun State Office of INEC. Please make welcome Mr. Vilbai Kintai. These are the persons and resource persons that will be engaging us and that will be engaging with at today's panel segment of intersection of faith and medicine. And my first question goes to no other person but Dr. Deji Ogungbemi. Why is mental health matter becoming a popular matter recently? Is this a new development in medicine?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Shilola team. I appreciate all the organizers and the founders. To start with, it's not a new development in medicine. I want to believe that it's due to an increase in the awareness, increase
Dr. Gumbemi, we might need you to
research.
speak up a little more, sir. I want to hear you louder. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, better now.
Is it better now?
Yes, much better,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, thank you very much for that. I believe it is actually due to an increase in the awareness of mental health conditions and research. It's not actually new, as it were, but more importantly, it is due to an increase in the mental health conditions worldwide. Statistically, WHO has actually made it clear that mental health issues is actually among the 5 leading causes of disability in the world. Talk about major depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorders, alcohol use, that is substance abuse, obsessive compulsive disorders, amongst other cases of anxiety and the likes. And it cuts across both developed countries and developing countries, across age, gender, and different social strata. So it's also been said that disability is not just, or does not just affect the individual, it affects the entire community. So it is not a new issue, as it were, but we have an increasing number of cases across the world, that is globally. So I believe that that should suffice for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deji Ogungbemi. I'm still going to come back to you. I know you have a lot to tell us today. Dr. Bamikole, how do you engage with that question? Mental health, is it a recent phenomenon or it's always been there? Why is it suddenly getting more attention today? Thank you, sir. Let's hear you.
Thank you very much, sir. I want to appreciate Daddy and Mommy, the conveyor of this initiative, and our CEO and every member of the team. The topic of today is a very, very important topic, talking about mental health of men and how to relate it to what we're seeing recently. Mental health is not just occurring of recent. It has been something that has been of ancient time, though the incident tends to be increasing now because of a lot of factors that has make life little difficult for men now. Most important of them is economic hardship. This has made the mental health of men to increase on the increase. We have negative environmental extremities and rising cost of living. If you want to live a normal life now, the cost of it is very high. So in order to engage in this, men then tend to be more involved in a strenuous and stressful activity, which affects their health, not necessarily physically, but mentally. The demand of the society as well has made men to be involved in a lot of things. Some people want to gain to meet, so they tend to involve in some things to increase their strength, taking energy drink, taking alcohol, taking stimulants. So that tends to affect invariably without them knowing. So the condition was, I can say, it's underdiagnosed in the society. If you are moving on the street and you see somebody driving against the traffic, definitely that mental capacity of that individual needs to be put in question. So, but I may not going for mental assessment to really know what is going on. So mental health is not new, but reality on ground has made it to be in an increase. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bamikole and Dr. Ogungbemi.
All right. I think I need to mention that we also have with us Professor Moni Yeson. She's actually a professor of pathology at the Obafemi Awolowo University, and she's a consultant pathologist at the OAU Teaching Hospital Ile-Ife. She has been the head of department and vice dean. She has been the head of the department twice, and she is the vice dean of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences. Presently, she's the chairperson of the Health Professions Education Committee and a member of Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee at OAU. Professor Mrs. Esson, we're so happy to have you here. And I have a question for you. The legal practitioner told us about violence against women. What constitutes violence against women in your experience, and what are the common types that you have encountered in professional settings?
Thank you very much for that question. And I want to appreciate the organizers of this program for the initiative and bringing up this program at this time when even the United Nations, the women arm of the United Nations is celebrating and creating awareness about violence against women. As our dear barrister has said, that violence against women is any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical harm, sexual harm, emotional harm, or suffering to the woman or to the girl. And that this includes threats, coercion, arbitrary deprivation of liberty, which may occur in any setting, whether public or private life. To say that intimate partner violence is the most common form of violence against women. And intimate partner violence may be violence inflicted by a partner, current partner, or an ex-partner, which may be physical, emotional, abusive, and all this behavior leads to controlling behavior, intimidation, and threats to the life of the woman. In terms of intimate partner violence, domestic violence is very, very important. Domestic violence usually occurs in married couples or in girlfriend and boyfriend relationship, or sometimes in civil partnership relationship. And these forms of domestic violence are varied. There are different types of violence. Sometimes the man may not know that he is actually inflicting violence upon the woman. And one of the covert or overt form of violence is economic violence. A man depriving the woman of economic support just to control the woman. And that's why I want to appreciate the efforts of the OADI for empowering women and making them economically strong, so that at least when they're economically strong, a man cannot use economic violence against them. Apart from that, is psychological violence. This includes fears, intimidation, threats to physical life, and sometimes isolation from friends and families. And sometimes, including intimidation, that in a marriage relationship, a man can threaten the woman that if you don't cooperate, I'll send you out of this house. This is my house. And rendering the woman homeless is part of both economic and emotional violence against women. And then emotional criticisms, telling the woman you are worthless, you are not doing well, see what your friends are doing outside. All this verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is also a form of emotional violence against women. The physical abuse also occur. The physical abuse may be in form of wife battering, beating the woman, flogging the woman, and then slapping, stabbing. And in most severe cases may lead to loss of life in such terrible cases. And all these still occur within our environment. Then to talk about sexual violence, which is the very common one, and it's not really talked about. Sexual violence may be in form of sexual harassment or even rape. And sexual harassment may be overt or covert. It may be subtle, it may be spoken out. Sometimes it may just be action or just a sort of passing message, unspoken message, even to the woman. This may occur within, especially in the public places, at work, on campus, sex for grade, sex for promotion, sex for favoritism. All these are form of sexual violence. And sometimes something for something. If you don't do this for me, then you will not get this. Or if you don't sleep with me, you will not get your promotion. All those things are form of sexual harassment in the workplace. And to say that rape, it's in girls, just to conclude that in girls, the form of sexual harassment include early child marriage and female genital mutilation or female circumcision, which is still common in some of our communities. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. There are so many forms of violence, and the more we know, the more we can stand against them. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And our next question goes to Mr. Vilbai Kentai. Mr. Kentai, what's your view concerning the effectiveness of the law as far as female violence against girls and women is concerned? Do you think the law is effective? What do you have to say about it?
Okay, thank you very much for this awesome opportunity to be part of what's happening at the Olushola and Oyenike Foundation. To your question, let me just say that all forms of violence, the law has prescribed all forms of violence, whether it's actual violence, whether it's threatened violence, is prescribed by the law. In other words, whether an action constitutes a physical harm or an action puts a woman to be apprehensive of harm and against her person, the law prescribes it is an offense. It is either a crime against the state to harm a woman or to put a woman to be apprehensive of harm, or it's a civil wrong against the woman. So it is both a crime, but according to it is also a civil wrong, all forms of violence. And so to start with, the law does not permit any form of violence against any person, including the person of the woman. But I need to say that all penal codes of every country has provisions that legislate against violence against women, either as a crime or as a tort. And what is important is to note that despite different religious practices and cultural practices that might support or encourage violence against a woman, you find that in almost all constitutions of countries that are within the United Nations, there's a provision that guarantees the right of the dignity of the person, meaning that every other law, every other culture, every other code, every other belief that is contrary to that, it is null and void to the degree of its contrariness. Okay, meaning that there is a ground norm, there is a supreme law in every nation of the earth that does not allow violence against women. So in other words, you can take refuge under the law of your country if your culture, if your religion opens you to any form of violence as a woman. Okay, so substantively, or what I would say by legislation, okay, the law has done what it has done, okay, to make it either a crime or a civil wrong. It is a crime. The law has gone further to say if it's a crime, if you are a perpetrator of violence, you will be liable to a term of imprisonment or a fine upon conviction. Where it is a wrong, you are liable to pay compensation to your victim. So that's what the law has, okay, to make perpetrators of violence against women to suffer either imprisonment or fines, or to pay compensation to their victims in form of damages. That's not all. In respect to women, you find that apart from penal codes of nations, apart from constitutions of nations that I know within the UN, you also find conventions, international convention. You have charters across regions and across nations that prohibit all forms of violence against women. And you find that every nation that's a signatory to that convention is obliged to uphold the protocol of those conventions. In other words, where you can't find remedy in a state, in a nation, you can seek international remedy or international redress when there are cases of violence. So I would say that
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
status are
Mr.
there.
Kintai, I know you can go on
Thank
and
you,
on,
sir.
but
So much to know.
before I let you go, I know you're on audio today because of your schedule that would not permit you to come on video. But before I let you go, you were already touching on that point of the legal pathway to seek redress in instances of violence against women. Please tell us more about that. What are the pathways of seeking redress in instances of violence?
Thank you, sir. There are two pathways, right? You can proceed against your perpetrator. If you're a woman, you can proceed against your perpetrator in a civil suit. Okay, it is a tort, either as a tort of assault, either as a tort of battery, false imprisonment, etc., and etc. All those spectrum of actions or acts that other speakers have spoken of. Is a civil wrong. You can just take a writ. You can just take a writ in a court of law and claim for compensation, okay, against your perpetrator. You can also report to the state, okay, that as a crime. In that case, the person or the perpetrator will be arrested and will be prosecuted by the state. In other words, you can leave the state to prosecute for you, okay, to pursue justice on your behalf. You can take your destiny in your own hand, okay, by proceeding against your perpetrator in a civil suit where you go against him as a civil person. Two things are important here. You find where if the violence has happened for so long that you can no longer proceed, as maybe it happened when you are young, it happened when you didn't have the means to do so, it happened when you couldn't do anything about it. Now that you're able to do about it, sometimes when time has lapsed, you can't proceed in a civil suit. Okay, they will say your action is started bad. For example, all thoughts, for example, you have a period of 6 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 3 months, etc. Okay, to civilly proceed against your perpetrator. But when time is no longer on your side, okay, you can proceed against your perpetrator as a crime by making a report to the nearest police station, okay, by causing the person to be arrested and to be prosecuted. Why do I say so? Because there is no time lapse to crime. Okay, so long as you have suffered an act of violence, so long as you are alive, you can always pursue remedy against your perpetrator by causing a legal, a criminal prosecution, okay, to lie against that person where time has lapsed. So there are two ways that you can seek compensation or seek prosecution. Thank you.
That's free consultation. Viewers at home, that's free. Thank you so much, our learned colleague. They are the truly learned colleague. Thank you so much for that. You know, when perpetrators go unpunished, they will think they can get away with anything. So I want to encourage you, okay, whether it's something that happened long ago or recent, why don't you do something about it, okay, so that people can know that violence against women is wrong on every count. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Bamikole, the cardiologist in the house, we're back to you, sir. And, you know, research has shown in recent years that suicide has been on the increase and suicidal attempts as well in the last 2 decades. So do you think this is in any way associated to mental health disorders in men? Dr. Bamikole, that's for you, sir.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. Suicide is a mental problem. To say suicidal attempt, because individual that has already committed suicide is no longer alive. But suicidal attempt can still find the person either alive or at the verge of being dead. So suicide is really a mental problem, and it's stemmed up from most of the time from depressive illness. which comes to the extreme end of depressive illness. In men, most of the time, it is found to be of some reason. One of the reasons there are to be one of the is communication issue. When men are having issues in their life, they don't tend to discuss with people. They keep it and bottle it up until it became a very, very issue. Also find that men don't seek help on time. They said, I can take care of myself, keep on using Panadol when they are having headache, instead of now the main cause of this headache. Is it that I'm thinking too much? Is it that I have something in my mind that I need to discuss with somebody? And sometimes they may result in substance abuse, taking alcohol, taking stabilizing medication or mood elevating medication. And all these drugs, they are drugs of abuse. They make one to look like a junk, really think straight. The mental capacity is really down in that instance, and that can lead to suicidal attempt or suicide. And depressive illness has been found to be common alcoholism. They usually think after drinking, they get over their problem, but they get deep more into the problem. So some other condition that cause suicide in men are worries about finances. Then if there is no job and they have to meet up with the economic demands of the society. So these are the things make suicide attempt or suicide to be common more than the other gender counterparts. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bamikole, for that. Dr. Dejogunbemi, I promised that I was going to come back to you, and now I'm back to you. How can we assess a man's mental health stability? What are the red flags to watch out for when it comes to man's mental health? Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you for those two questions. Very cardinal questions, if I must say. Let me start from the red flags. Red flag simply means warning signs, things you look for. And once you find them, could be just one or many, then you must actually speak up or get help. The first is withdrawal. When you find a man, this also applies to women anyway, it's not gender-based. When you find a man that, or any person that withdraws from other people, previously what he usually will enjoy, he now withdraws to himself, keeps quiet, stays more in his room, then you must start to suspect that. An example of withdrawal is when the person is withdrawing from time spent with family and friends, and now changes company or stays alone. A reduction in performance at work is also very important. For males, generally, their performance at work is very important. But by the time you now have recurrent complaints of reduction of performance at work, then it's a sign that there's a problem. There's likely to be a problem with that, such a person's mental health. Feelings of hopelessness, sadness, anxiety is also a red flag. Recurrent emotional outbursts, he's a gentle person, but now suddenly shouts, becomes highly irritable. And it's not just a one-off thing. You must understand that that person is having a red flag of poor mental health. Recurrent expression of aggression. There's a wrong notion that men are aggressive. But you must understand that within the confines of stable mental health, aggression is not part of it. So once anyone expresses aggression recurrently, that's a red flag. Neglect of the person's personal appearance, or we call it grooming, is also a sign, a red flag. Substance abuse, now takes alcohol, now takes whatever it is a red flag of poor mental health. The person being overly suspicious of others, that they want to hurt him, they want to harm him, they are ganging up against him or her, is a red flag of poor mental health. Problems with memory, problems with concentration, problems with attention. These are red flags. Excessive paranoia, worrying and anxiety. These are red flags, and I can actually go on and on. And there's one that I want to call our attention to is changes in sleep and feeding pattern. The person suddenly starts having reduction in number of sleep. Sometimes in the early part, it might look like it's a positive thing. Now tells you, oh, I don't sleep much. I use that time to read, or I use that time to plan. Many times, retrospectively, when you come to the hospital, that's usually the time around when the mental problems start to set in. Then feeding pattern. Now the feeding pattern could come either way. It could be a reduction, and it could be an excessive eating pattern. So whenever we see any of these signs that I mentioned, these are red flags of poor mental health. And how do we assess a man's mental health? As I mentioned earlier, it's not specific to a gender, as it were. Is the simple way is that one, you must make use of your, we call it, this part of the world, in the US, they call it family physician. In the UK, they call them GPs. That's a general practitioner. They are the first point of call. Ideally, everyone should have a general practitioner, you have a family doctor that assesses your mental health regularly. In fact, there should be legislation. You cannot hold any, you should not be able to hold any public office without a mental health assessment. Likewise, you should not be able to hold a driver's license without a mental health assessment, because a crazy person that drives is an unsafe driver. So before you get to any place of leadership, there should be a mental health assessment, and it should be recurrent. This deals with, thank God, Barrister Kintai just spoke, and Barrister Mrs. Oluwatu also spoke earlier. So legislation is important. Secondly, make use of your GPs. Anytime you notice a red flag, in fact, you should not wait for a red flag to come up. Just like you have your regular health checkup, mental health is part of your health care. So you should go for mental health checkups. And particularly, let me say this, once you notice you are not behaving properly, you shouted at your colleague at the office, you shouted at your wife, what you should simply do the following day is go to your doctor and say, it seems I've started shouting somehow, I'm not behaving within the normal of the society, and go for a thorough mental checkup. Then if the GP will assess and give you.
I know you can go on and on and on and on and on. We'll add a lot and
Thank
a
you
lot.
very much, sir.
A rich answer to that question. So we have to run. There will still be time for questions.
Very true. Wow, that's amazing. I work where we get to have checkups every 2 years. But in all the years I've been working there, I don't think anybody ever asked to check my mental state. So I think that's something that everybody needs to take personal responsibility for. Very true. Thank you so much for that, sir. Yeah, so I'm back to you, Professor Eso. We've heard a lot about mental health in men, and I want to find out, is it really associated with violence against women? And maybe I want to ask, when women observe these red flags, how do they handle such men in their lives so that they are not victims of violence if mental health, is associated with violence against women?
Thank you very much. A man's mindset and positive mental attitude towards the gender balance affects the way he relates to women generally and to women in his life in particular. There are so many factors that affect a man's mindset towards women. And the very important one is the family upbringing. How is the man brought up in a family way? What does he see his parents doing to women in his life? I've had men saying that in my house, women don't talk. In my house, when my father talks, my mommy keeps quiet. And that is what that person brings along into marriage. So family upbringing is very important. The childhood experiences, observing violence against women when you are growing up may make you either decide to be a dominator against women or to be a protector. Then traditional gender roles. For example, in our environment here, we have gender roles. This is what men do. This is what women do. And such things also affect the way men relate to women in general, and then their spouse in particular. For men with mental health issues, studies have shown that there's increased risk of intimate partner violence in men with mental health issues. Men that suffer depression, that have psychosis, and that have other mental personality disorders are more likely to be involved in intimate partner violence than natural men. And to say that men that abuse alcohol, which has been mentioned over and over, with substance abuse, are also more likely to be involved in intimate partner violence. The ability of a man to manage his emotions is very important in relationship. And generally, a natural men think that anger is a masculine trait, that it is good for a man to get crazy. But the Bible says that anger rests in the bosom of a fool. A man should be able to manage his emotion. There are different forms, variations of being angry. You'll be able to manage your emotions. Once you can manage your emotions properly, then you'll be able to relate to other people, whether women or men, and then women in general, because men are supposed to have greater strength than women. And the way you see your daddy, your brother handle women, or cousins, or things like that, handle women, also affects the way you relate to women in your life. So anger management is very, very important. Anger management is very important. And the bottom line for anger is selfishness. Thinking that, okay, how can you talk to me like that? See the way you spoke to me, or see the way you respond to me. But if you remove selfishness, which is the root cause of anger, then we are in the course of handling or preventing violence in relationships. The Bible says that we should be kind to one another, that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And the Bible says that husbands should love their wife. The person you love, you cannot continually be angry with that person, because anger and love does not go together. So we are, as Christians, a natural man, but as a Christian man should be able to manage his emotions very well. And then, thank God, we have the fruits of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22. I don't want to go on with that: love, joy, and the rest. And for a woman must know how to handle the man when the man is angry. We need to apply wisdom. And then if the man is angry, you don't have to respond in anger to increase the inflammation. So you need to respond with wisdom and then pray for him. Let the fruit of the Spirit rule our hearts. And when the peace of God garrison our hearts, we remove violence in our relationship and in our homes.
That's so true. Thank you so much for that, Ma. I hope the OADI are noticing the points where we cannot tie up because of time. Okay, maybe we would be able to look at such things subsequently, how you manage, those around you that have some critical issues, how you can manage them and things like that. So, Dr. Bankole, before we wrap up this first panel section, we would like to come back to you. And in 30 seconds, can you tell us what the state of the mental health care system is in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Ma. The state of mental health system is really not too good, because I was checking through internet and I noticed that we have only 8 neuropsychiatric hospitals in the whole Nigeria. And I'm sure if we look at a normal hospital in these our environments, maybe the total number of beds will be like 20 to 30. I understand that you say that has the largest, more than maybe like 100 or above. So like 20 times 8. Are we trying to say the mental health units people are less than maybe 100 in Nigeria? No. So the government needs to improve on how to get this facility available. And one of the problems that occur in the management of this patient is lack of understanding of the root cause of this mental health illness. Some had some spiritual connotation that needed probably deliverance, needed serious counseling spiritually and to handle the basic cause. Some has some maybe familiar cause, and some has a cause that is running in the family that they need to be delivered from, but they keep on giving them just medication, which sometimes may not really work. And some other thing is lack of social support. That's a very serious problem, because somebody that you brought to the hospital to be cared for, and there is nobody to support that individual emotionally. And people are even stigmatizing on individual that has mental health problem now. And to make the thing worse, they can carry them to a traditional healer that will prolong the condition rather than curing it, using cane to be beating madness out of somebody that is mad, is not stable, thinking it's a physical problem. So we need to improve on the level of care of mental health in Nigeria, starting from the government to an individual. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that, sir. You know,
Thank you very much.
I think there is also the fear that I think a lot of people think that mental health issues are not really treatable, that they are really just manageable. And so people just think that eventually this person is going to go stuck on the street. So they just give up on people who have mental health issues. I'm sure that in the second panel session, we'll be able to look at treatment and management. Over to you, sir.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mrs. Joseph Shaibu. And please, everyone back at home watching us, wherever you're connecting from, I believe that our amazing panelists deserve a rousing applause for a wonderful contribution to the knowledge of around mental health and elimination of violence against women. Please join me and put your hands together to appreciate and celebrate them for their contribution. I hope that when next we call on them, they will answer our call. Thank you once again. Please, it's not over yet. We will now take a break now, a very short break at that, and we'll be watching a clip from our dearest founder, and it's related to this topic. We will, after this short clip, move into the second panel discussion from where we'll be touching down and having a wrap up. Thank you.
The first time that a statement came out of my spirit, the kingdom of God does not advance by discussion, but by destruction. It was Pastor Aweda, I was pastoring at Oshobo that time, and they brought a member of the church to me. They had married 3 years, no fruit of the womb. And the lady came to see the pastor, because the mother in the village was discussing with the father in the village. And the father of the wife said, so the mother said, one day, because the woman knows the husband for what he is. And the man didn't talk. The mother went to meet a friend of the husband. This is what your friend said. And that friend talked to him. And then he told the friend, I think the husband did something he didn't like during the wedding. Now somebody say, he doesn't believe in that part. I say, we can sit in your office and talk grammar. May you not cross paths with some wicked men. Even the Bible talks of not all men have faith. There are wicked men and unreasonable men. Because there are ladies that just meet a layman that say, won't let her pass. When I first started the ministry in a university, one of the major universities, before now, today they are sacked, they said they want to jail a professor. All right? That's what I'm saying. Years ago, in that same university, a lady, a member of our ministry, that I'm going missionary organization, told a lady that she won't graduate. She had failed 1 year and said she won't graduate unless she sleeps with him. As far back as that time. And she met that girl on the corridors and told her, you know what to do to pass. Brilliant, but not going. That's not a good man. And then she raised it, and anointing came upon me, and I told her, are you bold enough to, you've got nothing to lose. All right? Are you bold enough to say what I'll tell him? Say, well, I've got nothing to lose. Tell him my pastor said, God told him, if you ever want to sleep with a woman again in your life, let me go. God told Pharaoh, tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You see what will happen if I prayed under God's anointing for an impotent man? God did it. I can also pray for a potent man to lose it. So the man let the lady pass. They are wicked men. Why will a man, if you can't talk to a lady, when we are young, they tell you to go and toast a lady. You can't toast a lady by your natural ability. You now use your position to force a lady that doesn't want to sleep with. It's wicked. Is it right? No, sir. Huh? It's not right. If it was your daughter, will you agree? Huh? No, sir.
Wow, that was a brief one, but I'm sure if you contact the media, if you want to hear more about that, you can drop a link in the comment section, and the entire message and the entire administration can be made available to you. Very quickly, because of our time, we need to move to the second panel discussion. Like we mentioned, we still have an array of professionals in the house, and they will be looking more into this topic, men's mental health and violence against women. All right, so let me quickly introduce to us the four panelists that we have in this session. We have with us Mrs. Bukola Abe. As mentioned earlier, she's a certified speech coach. She's a seasoned broadcast journalist with the largest radio network in Africa, with over 15 years of experience, and she has anchored award-winning programs. You are very welcome. We also have Dr. Lekon Ojo. He's a consultant nephrologist, a fellow of the ISPD, and has won many travel grants to Europe, North America, and Asia. Currently into genetic research of some non-communicable diseases, married to Dr. Ayola Ojo with 3 kids. You are very welcome. We have with us Mrs. Adekomi. She's an associate of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, with over 15 years experience in banking. She's currently the head of marketing in Globus Bank Limited. You are very welcome. And finally, we have Mr. Lekon Aliu. He's a senior human resource leader with international experience across 3 geographies in multinational companies. His academic background includes an MBA from the top-ranked IE Business School and the Singapore Management University, and a master's degree in HR from the London School of Economics. You are very welcome. So a round of applause for our panelists for this second session.
Thank you very much for that. These are intimidating CVs that I've had today. Okay, Dr. Lekon Ojo, my question will be going to you, sir. And are men's mental health really connected to violence against women? What is the nexus? So how do we create a connection? Is there an existing connection between a man's mental health and violence against women?
Thank you very much, our wonderful moderator. I want to appreciate the privilege to partake of the program of this afternoon, and to thank the CEO and for the invitation extended to me. The question that has been asked is to find if there's a nexus between men's mental health and violence against women. This has been severally alluded to by the previous speakers, and the publications are there on the internet because it is possible to talk subjectively, but we have some objective evidence. An interesting study from Zimbabwe, which actually represents some of the things that we are talking about, because bulk of the would I say allegations of the publications have been from the sufferers or the assumed sufferers, the female gender. But here, in this study, about 2,838 men were interviewed. And there's a structured questionnaire approved by the World Health Organization, in which individuals, men to be specific, were asked questions related to issue of violence against women, specifically intimate partner violence, as well as sexual violence. And then this is specifically asking the men. And the interesting finding was that in a lifetime of these individuals, about 41% of those people had been involved in violence against women. And then in the previous 12 months, 8.8% of those individuals had been involved. Now, what were the major things found in these individuals that perpetrated such? And it was found out that, one, these individuals largely have had a history of child abuse, alcohol abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, that is an exposure to an event that is distressing and the remembrance of it evokes a negative memory in some of them, depressive symptoms, personality disorder or antisocial behavior, like that. So there is a nexus. It has been established from this study and a few others, even from the West, that a man's mental state contributes in no small measure to violence against women. And some of the things found to be responsible will include, one, a great difference in age. So if the man is much older, or if there is a disparity in the academic attainment, so the man is better informed or educated than the woman, there is that tendency. Then it's also seen in people that are poorly educated, maybe as a compensatory mechanism. So he wants to establish his authority over the woman. And then a history of childhood exposure to childhood maltreatment, and also the societal approval of the superiority of the male gender over the female. So there is a connection, and some of the things that have been found to be responsible are the things that I've attempted to highlight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that detailed relationship between mental health and violence against women. Much appreciated. You know, in the first session, we threw up the question of availability and accessibility of mental health care in the country, but social media is one thing you will agree with me is available and accessible to everybody. So, Mrs. Bukola Abe, I'm coming over to you. I want to know, what has been the role of media in violence against women? Is the media serving to contribute to this or to curb it in any way?
Thank you so much, Ma. I first of all want to appreciate the organizers and the OOADI. I want to thank the CEO for this opportunity. I am so grateful. Talking about the role of the media in curbing violence against women. Well, I can say the media has done a lot of good and a lot of harm. But speaking on the good that the media has done, the media, for instance, has brought to light so many things that have been hidden in times past. Due to the kind of culture and the kind of locality that we find ourselves in this part of the world, women have been told that sobriety means keeping quiet. You don't say anything, even when you're oppressed, you're victimized, you keep quiet just to save your face and to save your home. But the media has brought to light so many things that are hidden. There has been a lot of enlightenment ongoing. People now know that so what all these years was actually wrong. Oh, so what we went through was actually punishable under the law. So the media has its good side. The bad side with the media is the abuse of it. Like, for instance, when you have uncensored contents on the social media or contents that have been tagged NTBB not to be broadcast, probably because it has malicious content, or it could trigger violence in someone else. And that's why you have things like parental guidance and all of that while watching some content. But when things are just thrown into the social media without any guide, and innocent souls feed on it, it fuels violence in them. So that is the bad side of the social media. But for the good side of the social media, I can tell you that the media sensitizes us about court proceedings on how to deal with matters that has to do with violence against women. So any man that is doing it and sees that it is punishable, he will refrain himself from doing so. And then also, the media also lays emphasis on warnings, like people should desist from it. If you have not been caught, if the social lays a hand on the snippet of your video and it's on any of the handles, it becomes global, and everybody would want to see to it that justice is attained. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that expose. Really, the social media has given a voice to those who have been told to keep quiet. And it has also given a voice to those who should be told to keep quiet. So it's really your decision to decide what you listen to and to choose correct content. Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Mrs. Adekomi, I'm coming to you. And we would like to find out, what are the red flags in organizational systems that encourage violence, particularly violence by men against women? Things that could be exploited to make it easy for men to, perpetrate violence against women. Over to you, ma.
Thank you very much, ma. Good evening, everybody. I just want to use this opportunity to thank my mother and my father in the Lord for giving us this opportunity to address these issues about mental health as a topic. Before now, it used to be a taboo topic that people didn't want to address. It was a taboo topic that people made fun of, especially in this time in Africa. People usually do not want to address the fact that mental issues are real issues. They are not, in quotes, phony or spiritual issues. So for back to the answer of the question you asked now, ma. Red flags in organizational systems that encourages men's violence against women. Number one on my list, but not the most important, will be a negative organizational culture. If an organization has a culture that is negative towards women, it will definitely affect the way women are treated in that organization. For instance, there are some organizations that accept violence as a means of settling issues with each other, and the ND CEOs, the management, the board do not see anything wrong with that. They believe that if a woman says something, say, who are you talking to that you can slap her and get away with it? So if you have that kind of culture in an organization, it will foster violence against women. Those are red flags. Number two will be unequal distribution of power and resources in an organization. If you have an organization that tends to unequally distribute power, that will not allow women to flourish, that will not allow women to be the best that they can be, to get to certain heights, that is also linked to the glass ceiling theory. If the glass ceiling theory means that there's an unseen ceiling that stops or that seemingly restricts a gender or a set of people from attaining to the highest level in that organization. So if you have that kind of thing going on in an organization, those are red flags. Then finally, I would say rigidity in an organization. If you have a rigidly defined gender role in an organization, it will definitely show you that there's a red flag. Women are not allowed to speak up in meetings. Women are not allowed to share ideas. Women are not allowed to make corrections. Those are red flags that would definitely foster violence against women. Thank you, ma.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Adekomi, for that. My next question will go to Mr. Lekon Aliu. And Mr. Lekon Aliu, mental health and productivity at work, how does one affect the other? Hello, sir.
Yeah, well, thank you for the for the questions, and I'm very grateful to be here today with you. To answer the question very simply and directly, I think there's a broad body of evidence that establishes a relationship between productivity and variables, such as effort, both basic effort and discretionary effort, creativity, mental stamina, agreeableness, ability to work effectively in a team, locus of control. That is the idea that someone feels able to take on tasks, that is put in front of them. Long and short, there is a very direct link between productivity and mental health, or the lack thereof. The UK Mental Health Institute were able to assess the impact of mental health issues on the UK economy at about 225 billion pounds a year. That is about just over 12% of the UK GDP every year. So, and they also established that actually organizations that pay sufficient attention to mental health have almost a 12% increase in performance, relative to those who don't. So, sum it up together, very clear and direct link between mental health and productivity. I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, sir. Straight to the point. And that tells us if you want to improve your productivity, one of the variables to influence positively is your mental health. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for that. So we're back to the media specialist in our midst, and Mrs. Kolabe. We want to know, in this stage of social media and influencers, how should a 21st century Christian use media to ensure that he or she maintains a healthy mental status?
Thank you so much. Basically, statistics reveal to us that 6 out of every 10 women has access to internet. So that means we have a lot of people online more, especially the upcoming generation. And there is a tendency for people to get addicted to the social media, like the feeds and all of that. You get information, and then you want to know the concluding part of that story. There are tiebacks and all of that. If you're not careful as a Christian in this world, you might get carried away. So the first thing to do is have a renewed mind. Have a renewed mind, a mind that has been purged and cleansed by the blood of the Lamb. Have that. And then the second thing you need to do as a 21st century Christian is to be disciplined. A life that is not disciplined is a life that is going nowhere to happen. So be disciplined. There is everything. The Bible talks about times and seasons. So also in life, there is time to eat and time to fast. So there is time to go to the social media, and there is a time not to go there. Also, deal with addiction. Are you addicted to some part of some short clips, movies, and all of that? If you are, it comes to a time it takes you over. You shouldn't be engrossed. There should be other things that takes your time, not just one thing. Addiction, deal with it. And when you stop, not that your mind is still back there, and then you have lost control of your mental health until you go back to that thing on social. Recently, there was a time that the media was shut down. Actually, a lot of people were like, wow, so we could do other things apart from the social media. Yes, you can. You can read books. My father in the Lord, the CEO, wrote a book, Mind Your Mind. Read that book. Mind what comes into your mind. It definitely would affect what happens to your life. And last but not the least, as a 21st century Christian, learn how to use the likes and share buttons discreetly. There are so many stories out there that catches your fancy. You're fascinated by the write-ups, but they have some undertone. So you need to be discreet, because once you like it, people who know you sees it, and then it tells them that you probably approve of this thing, and you have not read so much. to see the undertone there. So be discreet about the use of the likes and share buttons while on social media. Thank you so much. That's the take from me.
Thank you, Mrs. Bukola Abe, for that exposition. Dr. Lekonjo, this question goes to you. I know you to be a pastor and also a consultant nephrology. And maybe that's why this question is yours today. How do we, let me put it this way. Is mental health disorder a spiritual or a medical problem? And the second question is, what are the predisposing factors that exposes a man to mental health disorder? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for that question. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Yes. I think we should start from the definition of health. The WHO defines health as a state of complete physical, social, mental, and spiritual well-being, not a mere absence of diseases or infirmities. So it means all of these parameters can affect health: physical, social, spiritual, mental. Now, coming to mental health, from what has been researched, it does not just have an entity being responsible. We have genetic factors. I mean, people have referred to that earlier. If an individual is given birth to by parents, either one or both of them have suffered mental health, it is possible that he suffers it. So it could be said to be genetic, but it's not all children of the offspring of sufferers that develop it. So there are some other things. We talk about physical conditions like brain damage. We talk about the use of substance abuse. We talk about psychological issues. We talk about environmental factors. So quite a number of things can bring about abnormalities in the mental domain. However, it has been observed also that people of faith that have good support, they suffer less or they recover early. So it's an interplay. It is not restricted to one domain. There could be a disturbance. And going into the Bible, the madman of Gadara, I mean, the manifestation is what we call sorry, please, I was briefly lost there. The manifestation of the madman of Gadara would qualify for what we call schizophrenia. The Bible said Jesus ministered unto him and he recovered. So there is a spiritual component, there are physical components. So it is not just one entity that is responsible for mental health. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, sir. That's amazingly clear and fortunately spoken to. The next question goes to Mr. Lekon Ali. What advantage does a Christian professional have in dealing with mental stress? What are the advantages of a Christian professional in addressing or overcoming mental stress in the workplace?
Thank you for the question, sir. Well, I think that the Christian faith enables you to have a better quality life in every respect, and I think it is exactly the same with regard to mental health. So, if I take it just a number of scriptures that provide that detail what a Christian can expect. So, for instance, when people are overwhelmed at work because they are stressed, either because they do not feel that they can control things or because they just relationships are difficult, managing a tough boss or dealing with targets that they find particularly challenging to meet, A lot of people work in global organizations now where the challenges they deal with can be influenced by a broad range of factors. Psalm 23 verse 3 talks, speaks of God restoring our souls. And of course, the mind is part of, what you have in the soul. That restoration that that God does as our shepherd is part of the advantage of the believer. The Bible says in Psalm 61 verse 2, for instance, that, when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to a rock that is higher than I. So if you think about things that lead people to depression, to situations where people lose their minds, I've had the unfortunate reality of working in an organization where even very senior people, sometimes I've had to commit suicide, just because the reality of life and the challenges of mental health became too overwhelming. These are the kinds of things where, a believer can find solace, in the word of God. And there are many, whether it is fear, whether it is, depression, whether it is being overwhelmed. Psalm 16 verse 8 says, I've said the Lord always before me, because at my right hand, I cannot be moved. So I can go on and on, but I think the point is simply that the Bible offers such a comprehensive set of resources that a believer who is keeping step with God and with the Holy Spirit should not have to deal with this, or if they do, should be able to recover very, quite easily from it. So I think that it is a very rare opportunity, and one that is one to not trifle with, that we have as believers in dealing with issues like this.
Thank you for that clearly positioned point on the advantages that a Christian has when it comes to overcoming mental stress. Awesome. Mrs. Adekomi, I think rightfully so, the final question within this panel discussion goes to you, and it's asking you, what are the advantages of a Christian woman in rising above violence in the workplace? Okay. I think we should wait a bit for Mrs. Adekomi to come back online. And as Mrs. Adekomi is coming back online, Mrs. Shaibu, it's been a rich panel conversation today. It's been a super rich panel conversation. And what's your comment about it so far? Okay. All right. Yes. Mrs. Shabu, yes. How do
All
you?
right, sir. I think I lost that audio for a bit there.
Okay. I was asking, how engaging has this been for you? While we are waiting for Mrs. Adekomi to come back online.
I'm back online. I think it's the network.
Yes. So you are welcome back. We are happy to have you back. Tell us.
Thank you.
Tell us, ma'am, how can a Christian woman rise above violence against women in the workplace?
Okay. Not to sound too in depth in terms of over spiritualizing issues, but I think that first and foremost, we are spiritual. We are spirit beings. So for everything that is manifesting physically, there's a spiritual background to it. For a Christian woman, you first of all, whether you're a professional or a housewife or whatever, you're a Christian woman, you're spiritual. You are meant to be spiritual. You're meant to be guided by the Spirit of God. And so you should not take things at face value. There's always a spiritual background to everything that is happening around us. So I would say that we should live by the Spirit at all times. Live by the Spirit. Do not give room for the flesh to manifest, to take over your thinking and your behavior. The Spirit always comes ahead every time. You should live by the Spirit. That is number one, I would say about it. Then, anytime issues crop up in your environment, you have the advantage. You have the advantage. Because if you are truly doing what you should do, I mean spiritually, the devil will not take undue advantage over you. You will always have first-hand information, prior information before the devil comes ahead with anything he's going to come with. We are Daniels. Daddy teaches us, our father and the Lord teaches us that we are Daniels in this generation. We are to lead at every point in time. We are 10 times better than our peers in every endeavor of life. Philippians 4:7 also tells us that let the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, keep our hearts and minds. So at every point in time, let God's peace be in your heart so that no matter what comes up in terms of pseudo-violence or violence in itself, in the workplace, as a Christian woman, you are able to handle, deal, and take control over it. That's basically what I would want to share about that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Adekomi. And that wraps up the second panel discussion on this program today. Please, a round of applause for all our panelists, both at the first segment of panel discussion and the second one. They've done an amazing job of deep thought and perspectives that is quite rich on this program today. Thank you. And we believe that whenever we call on you, you will be happy to come back and be a blessing to our teaming viewers once again. And indeed, it's been a rich time, and we've had different sides, different perspectives, violence at home, mental health, signals, and what have you. See, for those who are connecting to this today, you've had different sides of it. And I'm so happy to know that no matter how bad it is, God has not left us without option. And that is the intersection of medicine and faith. That where science can no longer go further in helping humanity, faith comes to the rescue of man. And you've heard from our panelists how the Christian faith stands out by the application of the word of God, by understanding of spiritual reality, by application of taking advantage of having a pastoral watch over our lives, how we can run for rescue by the word of the Lord and rise above mental disorder, mental stress, or even violence against women, be it at home or in the workplace. And I'm sure that before the end of this program today, our panelists will be available to help answer your questions. Even if you need one-on-one counseling and conversation, you can just drop a note in the chat box. You will be tied or you will be connected to the panelists that will be able to help you. You may be making the decision along the lines of faith today. You might have been connected, you might have connected to this program as a free thinker or as someone who didn't believe in anything spiritual. But you've seen today that for everything that is physical, there is a spiritual side to it. And you can have an answer of peace, a transformation, a transition from defeat to victory, from mental health to wholeness. And I'm sure you will be glad you did so. Thank you very much. Now, I want to hand over to Mrs. Joseph Shaibu to take us further.
Oh, you have done a good wrap up there, sir. You know, it is consoling to know that there is hope, okay, for both men that have mental health challenges and even women that are victims of violence. You understand, there is hope and there is help, both professionally and spiritually. And that is what OADI has tried to put together in this short session to let you know that you can find help. You don't have to remain as a victim, whatever the situation is. Just reach out and you will find help in Jesus' name. Amen. So, sir, I think we have time for a quick question before we call it a day today, do we? All right.
Yes, we do.
Okay. I believe Dr. Deji Ogunbemi is still with us, and he will respond to one of the questions we have from one of the participants. There are people who normally when you relate with them, they have the natural, that natural trait of shouting at the top of their voice or reacting in such a loud manner, okay, that may be considered offensive or even abusive by some. Would we relate this to mental health issues, or how do we handle such cases? Dr. Deji, are you still with us, sir? All right. I think in the absence of, if Dr. Deji is not online at this time, Dr. Lekojo, could you please help us address that question?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I think we need to just go back a little to one of the things that has been said about the pointers or the red flag. And I remember Dr. Gubemi referring to antisocial behavior. And I think this abnormal shouting would definitely qualify for that. And, we talk about actions or behaviors that harm or lack consideration for the well-being of others. And this abnormal shouting will qualify for that. So you cannot say that it is your own way of behaving. So if that is it, you can be counseled out of it. You can undergo therapy, because even though you think it's okay by you, but you need to consider what it does to other people. The person you have shouted upon could it could be emotionally traumatic for that person. So you can't, if you assume it's okay for you, if it's injurious to other, you cannot continue to perpetrate it. So it needs to be addressed. And for somebody to have actually raised it, because somebody must have talked about it before you brought it up, then it means it is harming somebody. It doesn't have to be physical. So it cannot be normal to say that you are used to shouting. If it's affecting somebody, then you have to tone down on it. If you find it difficult to control it, then you go for care. Thank you. Okay, sorry, Pastor Deji is back.
Yes, we'll also like to hear from him in 30 seconds about that.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma.
Yes.
Dr. Alekonjo has actually spoken well about it. The second side I want to bring to it is that some people shout because they have some degree of hearing loss. So they are not hearing themselves well, so they need to shout. So shouting cannot be the norm. It's actually abnormal. So go for help, let them receive proper assessments and then proper care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that quick wrap up. And so as we bring this beautiful program to a close, we'd like to once again invite the CEO of the OOADI as she takes us through the closing remarks. You're welcome, Ms. Pisarego.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you so much. I would like to start by saying it was such an amazing and interesting event and program. There was so much that I learned about men's mental health and how many times violence against women is as a result of poor mental health from the men's side. So it was very, it was a very insightful and dare I say successful and successfully executed symposium. And at this point, I'd like to appreciate everyone for being here with us today. I'd like to appreciate all our participants for bearing us audience today. I'm sorry about whatever background noise you might be hearing right now. I would also like to appreciate our speakers and anchors for honoring our invitation to be being a part of today. Without you, today wouldn't have been possible. So I want to appreciate our anchors and all our speakers. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. It's something we do not take lightly. And I would also like to appreciate the wonderful OOADI team. Thank you so much for, there's so much that was done, actually behind the scenes. All right, we met some of them during the breakout sessions, Mr. Anjorin, Miss Adekupe, Miss Ajayi, Miss Odekunle. Thank you so much. Again, they did so much of the running around, and thank you so much. I would also like to appreciate our founders, Reverend Olushola and Reverend Oyenike Arogun, for giving us this platform to able have something to talk about, or whatever. We if there was no OADI, we won't have this intersection of faith and medicine symposium to begin with. So I would like to especially appreciate them and appreciate them for allowing us to run with our ideas. all right, and letting us, do what we want to do, and it's also something we do not take for granted. If you look into the chat box, you would again see the forms for sponsorship as well, still in the chat box below. So if you would like to partner with us in any way, you can fill the form as well. You can also send us a mail. I believe the email will be put, email address to send in whatever questions you might have about what we do as a foundation, and further ways you can volunteer with us and whatnot. You would find that in the chat box as well. And also, once again, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. For those of us that are watching via YouTube, our YouTube channel name is OOAD Initiative. So find us on YouTube and subscribe, all right, to our channel, okay, and tell other people about us and get them to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and also to our other social media platforms also, so so that you can be kept abreast as to what we do, other events that we're going to be having, especially in the coming weeks, that you might want to also be a part of. So once again, just thank you, and thank you. I'd like to welcome our anchors to take us on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CEO Ms. Peace Areogun, for that awesome closing remark to this symposium. And we will not go away without saying a word of prayer together. And leading us in closing prayer for this symposium is Dr. Deji Ogungbemi. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's bow down our heads as we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the platform. Thank you for the reach. Thank you for the spread. Thank you for all that you have done. We thank you because we know as this program was ongoing, and even after now, there's been healing to everyone. We thank you for the healing. We thank you for the wholeness. Be magnified in the name of Jesus. Lord, I hold on to your word over everyone that is presently connected to this program or be watching it thereafter, that the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, will keep your hearts in the name of Jesus. Will
Amen.
Keep your mind through Christ Jesus. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen and amen. Thank you everyone for joining us once again. It has been a most enlightening program. Don't forget to send us an email, okay? The email address will be posted on all the platforms that you are connecting from, and also our other social media links, so that you can have information about what we're doing. Send a mail if you need further, and you want to make inquiries about anything at all, and our team members will be there to respond to you immediately.
Thank you very much. We look forward to having you join us at subsequent editions of various programs and symposiums organized by Olushola and Oyenike Areogun Development Initiative. Until next time that will come your way, we say thank you and bye for now.
And stay mentally healthy.
Indeed. Thank you.
All right. Bye.